Anders Eldrup.
Yes, thank you. It is, as Mariana said, as you grow older, you have been many places before, so that's the case for me as well. But what I do learn more and more is that if we look to the world we are facing, actually we are having quite a number of challenges in this world. If I just should mention 4 big challenges. We have a big issue with resources, because so many people are moving, and that's a good thing, are moving into the middle classes in the world. If you take it roughly, 1 billion is in the middle class today, but in not many years from now, 4 or 5 billion will be in the middle classes. So the need for resources to these many more and more well-off people will increase dramatically. And we can see now the stress on the resources in the world we are living. We can see that prices on some of the scarce commodities is going up, and we will see that more and more. So there is a new agenda on the issue of resources. We have to have a new look on resources. We have to recycle. We cannot use the old methods where we just throw away the things we have used before. So resources, that is a scarce and precious thing in the future, and we must develop the technologies that can take care of that. Another issue that is very pressing is, of course, climate heating, and we know about that, all of us, and not least being in this building. Looking back, we know that it was actually in these surroundings that in December 2009, the COP15 took place, and 120 heads of state, all the important guys came here. I had the pleasure to be in the room myself as Obama and all the other guys on the last Friday tried to reach an agreement. They didn't succeed, and this has shown up when we look back on it. This was the fundamental crisis for the global approach to tackling the climate issue. The COPs that came after, they have been not very successful either. What I took out of this is too difficult a job to handle on a global scale. This must be handled in another way. Instead of this, what was the issue here, this top-down approach, you have to have a different one, a bottom-up approach. You have to start with the citizens, with the cities, with the businesses that want to change the world. It's not so many, but there are some businesses that are going to develop the new technologies. So this is the hope of the future, in my view. The citizens, the cities, and the businesses, they must be the drivers of change. A third very big issue we are facing is that as we get more and more people into the cities, the mega cities of the world, in many of the, especially in many of the developing countries, then we see that pollution becomes a bigger and bigger issue. Air pollution, water pollution. So some of these issues are also becoming more and more difficult to handle, and we must also develop the technologies that can do that. Elsewhere, people will not find the life in the new cities acceptable. We see, for instance, in Beijing, that there is big issues about the air pollution, and these things has to be solved in the future. And then we have the last issue I will mention here, and that is maybe specifically a European issue, unfortunately. That is the issue about getting jobs enough, especially for our young people. We see in major parts of Europe that unemployment for young people coming to the labor market is 30%, 40%, 50%, even higher. And that is a big issue. When that is going on year by year, that is really unsustainable for the way of our societies. So we are looking into some serious difficulties. Resource scarcity, climate issue, pollution, and the lack of jobs. And these are, each of them, huge issues, difficult to handle, and if you put them together, of course, it is even more difficult to see a solution taking care of these issues. Nevertheless, we have to find ways to come around these things. And I am not the guy who has the answer to all that, but I have part of the answer. And part of the answer, I think, is to develop the new industry, the industry of tomorrow, the cleantech industry. Because, and that is why we are gathered here today, because some of the answer to this is that we must develop new industry instead of the old industries. We must develop industries that can deliver the commodities we want to have, but with less materials, because we don't have the raw materials in sufficient amounts. So new and resource scarce industries must be developed. We must develop industries that can recycle waste. We should not put waste to landfills. We should not put waste into our incinerators as we do in Denmark. We should recycle and reuse, not 1, but 2 and 3 and 4 times the waste we have from households and from businesses. So here we need new technologies that can do this. Of course, the same goes with the climate issue. Actually, we do have most of the technologies necessary to handle the climate issue. The problem is we don't use them, but we must develop these technologies. So in my view, the huge problems the world is facing can be solved from the movers I mentioned, if we can make people on the ground change the way they do their daily life, if we can make cities go as front runners. We see Copenhagen as we are here today. We see Copenhagen, but also many other cities as good examples. Copenhagen city has set up the target to be the first capital in the world that goes CO2 neutral. They will do that in 2025. When I heard that the first time, I thought to myself, this is not possible. This is wild speak from politicians. But actually, they set the target. They did that, I think, as we had this enthusiasm before the COP15. But now they are trying to carry it out. They have made detailed plans about what to do this year, next year, following year. They have put on money. And what seemed to be a far dream now seems to be absolutely possible to achieve. And the Copennhagen Cleantech Cluster, where I'm the chairman, we are part of this development to change the Copenhagen city to become CO2 neutral. In Denmark, we know that we are not that many people, and we know that whatever we do will not mean a lot to resource scarcity, to pollution, to climate heating, or to anything. But what we also know is that if we can show to ourselves and to the world that life can be done differently, that industries can be developed that are in balance with nature, if we can show that this can work in the Danish environment, then we can at least have the hope that people from other places will come and see, okay, it's not just talk, it does work. And if that's the case, then we can maybe be the good example that can have a much bigger effect in the world, because it can be copied and used a lot of other places. So that is really the perspective we can see here, only being a small part in this game. So that is a challenge we are looking into in the Copennhagen Cleantech Cluster, to try to develop some of these new technologies that are in balance with the big issues of the world. And we have already, just to give a few examples of what we have been doing, some of them are not very exotic, but if you take household waste or waste from industry, we know that in waste there is 30 or 40% plastic. And if you take the waste and put it to a landfill, it is no good. We know that in the oceans of the world, there's huge amounts of plastic going around there, being a bigger and bigger issue for fishery and other things. So it is our ambition to try to develop ways where we can, instead of putting the waste to landfills, and instead of putting the waste to incinerary, of course it's very good if you put the waste, when so much is plastic, you put it to an incinerary, then it burns very well, but it pollutes a lot. So one of the new technologies we have to develop is how can we recycle used plastic so that we don't need to burn it, but we can use it once or twice more. And these technologies that are needed for that, they will be very important in the future, and we try as a small contribution to this, try to develop some technologies in that respect. We also are focusing on building materials. When we tear down some of our old buildings, normally we just take away the old building stuff. We try if we can develop ways so that these building materials to a large extent can be reused once more, again to develop industries that can do things with less resources. So there's a lot of new industries that has to be developed, and in the Copennhagen Cleantech Cluster we do our small part to that. It is not an easy task. It is difficult to develop new industries, and of course it is a big problem that the European system with the price on carbon is not working as it should. Because a big enabler to make this change happen so that the market forces could develop the new industries, the big enabler for that would be a high price on CO2. And as people gathered here in Bella Center in 2009, the expectation was that a high price on CO2 would arise, and industries were starting to adapt to that. The opposite happened, and that's a big issue, because without a price on CO2, it is difficult for the market mechanisms to deliver on these things. We see in the discussions in the European Union, which have been frontrunners in this area, unfortunately we see that also now it's difficult to get majority here, and even in the European Union it has been difficult to find solutions to try to push up just a little bit the price on CO2. And that is not promising for the future development. Nevertheless, even though the framework, the big conditions are difficult, there is an important task to be done here, and what I feel is that there are some frontrunners in business among the cities, and more also some of our engaged people, so that we can hope that this will happen. It will go more slowly than it should, but the development is taking place. And we hope that the clean tech guys can be part of this changing of the world that is so much needed. And that is some of the issues, as I said, some of the things we are working with in the Copennhagen Cleantech Cluster, and where we want to cooperate also with our friends in other parts and our other clusters and other interested people in other parts of the world. So thank you very much for coming. Bella Center is, in a way, we have bad memories, but nevertheless, what we are starting today is to convert the bad memories from 2009 to good memories. It can be done. We will do it. Thank you.